I'm Elmore Leonard. I'll give you a few of my rules for writing. They might come in handy for you, they might be helpful, they might not, but see what you think. I sold my first story in 1951 after I graduated from university. I was writing for an advertising agency, I was writing Chevrolet ads. And I was a little bored with that, so that I made myself get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to write fiction. I had a rule that I had to begin writing, get into whatever the scene was, before I could put the coffee on. And if I hadn't done that, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. The way I work, characters are much more important to me, to my book, than plot. I'll assemble characters. I say in the first 100 pages of my book, I'll introduce characters, and I think of them as auditioning in that period. And they have to be able to talk. First, I have to give them names. I've given characters names where they wouldn't open their mouths. I named a character once Frank Matisse, and the story took place in New Orleans, and I thought that was a typical New Orleans name. But Frank wouldn't open his mouth, and he acted too old for some reason. So I changed his name to Jack Delaney, and I couldn't shut him up. I don't believe in describing in detail a character's appearance. I don't want the character just to keep telling me what somebody looks like. I want to figure it out from the way they talk and the way they act, what they're like.
You know what I'm thinking? Why don't you and I, we sit down, we write the script over where it needs it.
You could write one of these.
There's nothing to it. All you do, you get an idea, you set down what you want to say on paper. Then you hire somebody else to fill in the commas where they belong, if you're not positive yourself. Maybe fix up the spelling where you have some tricky words. Although, I've seen some scripts, I know the words weren't spelled right. There was hardly any commas in it at all. So I don't think that's too important. All right, you get to the end. You write in, fade out. You're done.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all there is to it.
I didn't want to use too many obscenities because I would worry about what my mother would say about it. My agent in Hollywood called me up and he said, "Have you read The Friends of Eddie Coyle?" And I said, "No." He said, "Read it." And it helped me enormously. He showed how to get into a scene immediately, get the characters talking before you even tell where they are. And also he had a natural bent for using obscenities the way these criminals especially talk. So I got over that, and my mother then finally didn't seem to mind because she didn't complain at all. Readers do tend to skip through novels, but they won't skip dialogue. I'm very much aware in the writing of the dialogue, or even in the narrative too, of a rhythm. There has to be a rhythm with it, that the beat goes on. The interviewers have said, "You like jazz, don't you? Because we can hear it in your writing." And I thought that was a compliment. But I think it's very, very important to have a style or sound. I always refer to style as sound, the sound of the writing. And I was influenced very heavily by Hemingway. And because Hemingway made it look easy. I say never use a verb other than said to indicate dialogue. And you certainly don't use an adverb to modify said. He said dismissively. That's the author talking. Joseph Conrad said that, he says, words can get in the way of what you're trying to say.
Well, 2 weeks before we started shooting, I went back to Bensonhurst just to hear you guys talk. See, I'm Italian, but I grew up in Tarzana, so I wanted to get the rhythms of your speech, you know.
Oh, we speak differently?
Well, it's more like your attitude, your tone. Your speech patterns demonstrate a certain confidence in yourselves, in your opinions, your indifference to conventional views, you know. Just
like we don't give a shit.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. 'Cause anyway, once I get the authentic sounds of speech the rhythms, the patois, you know. I can actually get into their heads. I can actually think the way those guys do. Get inside.
Really?
Yeah.
I write in longhand because when I started out, I was working on a manual typewriter, not on like this one, but all I was doing was Xing out lines because writing is rewriting, constantly rewriting. Today, I think it takes me about 4 pages of writing to get one that I like. I write from 10 until 6 every day, and I work right through lunch. I have some peanuts or something for lunch. Now, I'll do 3 or 4 pages in that time because it gets harder. You'd think that after 40 books and another 40 or 50 short stories, well, you could just zip right along. I've had such a good time writing. I can't imagine doing anything else. I get such a good feeling about it. It's so pleasing to be able to write something that I read and it works. And it makes me happy. It pleases me. Sometimes I'm writing in the afternoon. I look at the clock and it's 3 o'clock. And I think, good, I've got 3 more hours. And that's the best kind of a job you can have. If you want to be a writer, all I can do is wish you luck. The rest is up to you.